I'm Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. Yom Kippur is almost upon us, and I'm going to discuss how we can come closer to God and what we can achieve on Yom Kippur. As we know, Yom Kippur is the day where Jews all over the world devote a period of an entire day, basically, in serious prayer, contemplation, self-inspection, asking God to not only give the Jewish people a good year, to inscribe them for a good year, but for all humanity. It's a time for all humanity. How do we accomplish this? What are the obstacles? I think one of the obstacles that we have is, we're supposed to pray and have intention in kavana, as it's called, concentrate on the prayers. But unfortunately, many of us may not know how to pray properly. Even if we know how to read the words, we may not understand them. Even if we understand them, we may not have the right intentions, the right serious depth. So what do? How do we get through Yom Kippur in that kind of a situation? Is there a remedy? And there's a story that illustrates how the simplest of prayer with the right intention can reach the highest heights of heaven. And I want to tell you this story. It's a story about the holy Baal Shem Tov. It was called Nidra night, the beginning of Yom Kippur, one of the most solemn times of the Yom Kippur service. And the Baal Shem Tov is dressed in his talis and his kittel, the white garment you wear on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. And the congregation is praying the prayer of Kol Nidra. And people look at him and they can see that he's bothered. He's bothered by something. Something is really, really causing him a problem. They don't know what it is. They finish Kol Nidra, and before the evening service starts, he says, let's pause a little bit. And he pauses and he's just kind of standing still, staring off into space. And after the passage of some time, he suddenly starts smiling and he seems very happy again. And they continue the service throughout Yom Kippur. Then at the end of Yom Kippur, his students ask him, what happened? Why were you so upset? All of a sudden you became happy. And he tells the story. He says there was a little village. In this little village there was a Jewish tenant and his wife and son who lived there, baby son who lived there. And the landlord was really good friends with this tenant. Even though the tenant was very poor, the landlord loved him. He knew he was a very righteous person. And he was very close to him. And one day, unfortunately, the tenant died, and very shortly thereafter, his wife died from grief. And they were left, and this little baby was left. So the landlord, who had no children of his own, said, I'll bring him into my home and raise him as my son. The landlord was not Jewish. He was a Christian. And he raised up this boy. And after a number of years, the boy is playing with some of the playmates. They get in a scuffle, and one of them calls him a dirty Jew. And he didn't understand that. And he went to his adopted father, the landlord. This little boy's name was Yosela. And he said, tell me the story about my parents. Who were they and what were they about? So the landlord tells him, your parents were observant Jews, they were upright people, they were wonderful people. And he says, is there anything that they left over for me? So the landlord says, they were so poor that the only thing they left was a little, I'll show you. He takes him up to the attic and he shows him a little sack, which is a tallis bag. And inside of it, there is a thick book, which happened to be a machzor, the prayer book for the high holidays. So Yoslo looked at this. He had no idea what it was, but he said, can I keep this? And of course, he kept it with him. It was very holy to him. And one day, he's walking in the streets of his little village, and he sees a bunch of Jews getting ready for a trip. So he thought maybe they're going to the fair. He goes up to them, are you going to the fair? No, no, no. We're going to the large city for to spend Rosh Hashanah there and to pray there in the large city. And he says, oh, what's Rosh Hashanah? So they told him it's a time when Jews pray for a good year for themselves and for the whole world. And they didn't want to get into any other detail because they knew that he was not raised Jewish. They knew he was the adopted son of this landlord, and they left it at that. And that night, little boy goes home, and that night he has a dream, and he sees his mother in the dream. And his mother says to him, my sweet son, you are a Jew, and your place is with your brothers. Today is Rosh Hashanah. Go and be with your brothers. He doesn't know what to do with that dream. The next night, he has another dream. This time his father appears to him in a dream. And he says the same thing. He says, you're a Jew. This is the time. This is Rosh Hashanah. Go pray with your brothers. He doesn't know what to do. And he really decides, yeah, I want to do that, but how do I do that? One day, the landlord, his adopted father, is gone for the day. He went hunting. And the little boy decides, I'm going to go to the big city and try to join a congregation, try to find a congregation where they're praying so I can pray, so I can be part of the Jewish people. And he goes, and he got there to the big city, and it happened to be the night of Yom Kippur. And everybody was in the synagogue with their talis, with their kittel, the white garment, praying to God, and praying Kol Nidre. And he didn't know anything. He didn't know how to pray. And it was obvious that he was in pain, and he felt very bad because he didn't know how to join in with them. And Baal Shem Tov said, I also felt bad because I thought that he was just going to run away from the synagogue. He'd be lost forever to the Jewish people. And all of a sudden, little Yosel opens up the thick prayer book, the Machzor, that was in his sack. And he opens it to the middle of the book, and he says, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world, I don't know how to read. I don't know how to pray. I don't know what's in this book, but this prayer book is yours, and may it be your will, please God, let all of these prayers that are in here be as if I made these prayers. And he then started crying. He says, this is my prayer to you, God. Take all of these prayers. I don't know how to pray. Take all of these prayers and let them be for a good year. Baal Shem Tov says, when I saw that, that's when I became happy, because I knew that he was returning to his people and to God. And his Hasidim, the Baal Shem Tov's Hasidim, were all crying, and they said, what a story. He says, at the time that we daven, if we could have this intention of this little young boy, our prayers would also reach to heaven. The moral of this story is that the simplest prayer with the right intention can reach the highest heights. and give us all the Jews and all the world, a good year. And I thank everybody for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. And I wish everybody a Gemar Chasima Tova. May you all be inscribed in the book of life and health and prosperity, and have a wonderful year. Shabbat Shalom.